On this spectacular evening, on this beautiful night, it's important for us to remember the history behind this site. It was over 200 years ago that a group of patriots gathered in this city to do something that no one in the world believed they could do. After years of a government that didn't listen to them, or speak for them, or represent their hopes and their dreams, a few humble colonists came to Philadelphia to declare their independence from the tyranny of the British throne. The union they created has endured for 2 centuries, not because we're perfect, but because we've always been perfectible. Because each generation of Americans has been willing to stand up and sacrifice and do what is necessary to inch us closer to the ideals at the core of our founding promise. Equality. Hello, 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 hello. Equality and liberty and opportunity for all who seek it. That's how we survived a civil war and 2 world wars, a Great Depression, and great struggles for civil rights and women's rights and workers' rights. And now, Philadelphia, it's our turn. This is a defining moment in our history. Our nation is at war and our planet is in peril. Our economy is in recession. I've met people all across Pennsylvania who stay awake at night wondering if next week's paycheck will cover next month's bills. Who wonder why 2 jobs or 3 jobs aren't enough to put your kids through college or pay for your health care, or fill up your gas tank. Who don't understand why they're putting a for sale sign up in front of their houses while CEOs of the companies that trick them into risky loans are walking away with $20 million. And most of all, we've lost faith that our leaders can or will do anything about this. We don't believe that anyone in Washington is listening to us or standing up for us or fighting for us. And that is why this election is our chance to declare our independence, to declare our independence from the broken politics of Washington, the cynical politics that puts spin ahead of solutions and special interests ahead of our interests. The politics that's all about tearing each other down instead of lifting the country up. Now, no matter who we're supporting in this primary campaign, the one thing... No. Hold on. I'm hoping there's some Hillary supporters out there. I want to persuade them. But let me finish here. No matter who you're supporting in this primary campaign, the one thing we know for sure is that the change this country needs will not come from a 3rd George W. Bush term. And that is exactly the campaign that John McCain is offering. I respect John McCain and his service to our nation. But we have deep differences about where this nation is and where this nation needs to go. John McCain believes that George Bush's Iraq policy is a success. So he's offering 4 more years of a war. So he's offering 4 more years of a war with no exit strategy, a war with no end in sight, a war that's sending our troops on their 3rd and 4th and 5th tour of duty. John McCain believes George Bush's economic policies have led, and I quote, to great progress over the last 7 years. That's what he said. And so he's promising 4 more years of tax cuts for CEOs and corporations, for the wealthiest few who didn't need them and weren't even asking for those tax cuts. Well, I don't think that the 8,300 Pennsylvanians who've lost their jobs, or the 232,000 Americans who've lost theirs this year, are seeing great progress that John McCain sees. I don't think the millions of Americans losing their homes are seeing that progress. I don't think the families without health care, the workers without pensions, are seeing that progress. And I don't think we can afford 4 more years of George Bush and John McCain's ideas of economic progress. It's time to turn the page and write a new chapter in American history. But here is the truth, Philadelphia. The challenges we face are not the fault of one man or one party. How many years, how many decades have we been talking about solving our health care crisis, and yet nothing happens? How many presidents have promised to end our crippling dependency on foreign oil? How many jobs have gone overseas in the 70s and 80s and the 90s, and we still don't have a strategy for American workers to succeed in this global economy? We're still talking about it in 2008, and everybody here knows why. Because in every election, politicians come to your cities and they come to your towns and they tell you what you want to hear, and they make big promises and they lay out big plans and fancy policies, but then they go back to Washington when the campaign's over and nothing changes. Lobbyists spend their millions of dollars to get their way. Folks would rather score political points than solve real problems. Instead of fighting for health care or jobs, Washington ends up fighting over the latest distraction of the week. It happens year after year after year after year. But I am here to say, Philadelphia, it will not happen this year. Not this time. This year, we can't afford the same old politics. This year, we can declare our independence from this kind of politics. That's the change we need right now. That's the choice you'll face on Tuesday. That's the reason I'm running for President of the United States of America. Senator Clinton is a tenacious opponent. She is also a committed public servant. But her message, listen up, guys. Her message really comes down to this. Her basic message is we can't really change the say anything, do anything, special interest driven game in Washington. So we might as well choose a candidate who really knows how to play the game. That's her basic message. Her message is that the Republicans have been doing this stuff over the last 2 decades, and I've learned how to play the same kind of game. So you might as well elect me, because we can't expect significant change in Washington. She's taken more money from Washington lobbyists than any other candidate in this race, even John McCain, because she says the lobbyists represent real Americans. She's taken a different position at different times on issues as fundamental as trade and even war to suit the politics of the moment. And in the last few months, she has launched what her campaign calls a kitchen sink strategy of negative attacks, which she defends by telling us that this is what the Republicans would do. She says that's how the game is played, and she can play that game better. Well, I'm not running to be the president who plays the same old Washington game. I'm running to end the game playing in Washington. I'm not running to fit in Washington. I'm running to change Washington. I don't believe we can deliver on the change we're promising if we don't declare our independence from the politics that stands in our way. I don't believe we can take on the lobbyists if we keep on taking their money. That's why I'm the only candidate who hasn't taken a dime from Washington lobbyists or special interest PACs in this campaign. And that's why when I'm president, I won't be answering to the oil lobbyists or the drug lobbyists or the insurance lobbyists. I'll be answering to you, Philadelphia. That's the change we need to reform this healthcare system and to change our energy policy. So we're not still talking about this 4 years from now or 8 years from now or 12 years from now. I don't believe we can bring about real change in Washington if we keep on telling everybody what they want to hear instead of what they need to know. I'm running to tell the American people what they need to hear. I'm running to tell the American people the truth. We can and should have a debate about free trade in this country and whether we're for or against certain treaties and agreements. But what you can't do is come to Philadelphia and make it sound like you've been opposed to NAFTA and the permanent trade treaty with China for your whole life when you've actually spent a decade as a champion of both. You can't do that. That's not change. That's more of the same old politics that's let us down. Now, I won't stand here and tell you that we can stop every job from going overseas. We live in a global economy. That's not going to change. So I believe in trade, and I don't think we can or should put up walls around this country. But what we can do is say that we're not going to enter into any more trade agreements unless they have real enforceable standards to safeguard the rights of workers. What we can do is be honest with the American people about the challenges that we face. That's the change that we need. I don't believe we can bring about change if we don't declare our independence from the politics that exploits our differences and inflames the divisions in our country. The politics that feeds on fake controversies and distractions, where you keep track of how many points you score on your opponent instead of how many problems you solve for the American people. That may make for good headlines and good television, but it doesn't make for good government. It doesn't bring down the price of your gas or your health care premiums. It doesn't help you pay for college or bring your loved one home from Iraq. Our party, the Democratic Party, has always been best when it led not by politics but by principle, not by calculation but by conviction. When we've had leaders who could rally the nation around a common purpose, a higher purpose. And I am running for President of the United States because that's the party that we need to be right now. That's the change that we need right now in America. That's why I'm running for President of the United States of America. The man I met in Latrobe, who lost his job and can't even find the gas money to drive around and look for a new one, he needs real change. He needs us to come together and take on the oil lobbyists and invest in renewable energy that's affordable and clean and will help create 5 million jobs all across America. The 1,100 workers in State College who lost their jobs when the Corning plant shut down, I met one of those workers today. some of whom actually had to pack up the equipment and ship it to China. They need real change. They need us to stop giving tax breaks to companies that ship jobs overseas and give those tax breaks to companies that invest right here in Pennsylvania, right here in the United States of America. They need us to reform our bankruptcy laws so that CEOs can't dump your pension with one hand while they collect bonuses with the other. That's the change that we need. The families I've met from Pittsburgh to Harrisburg to right here in Philadelphia sit around the kitchen table at night and try to figure out how they're going to pay their premiums or their kids' tuition and still make the mortgage that month. They've never needed the change more than they do right now. They need universal health care that gives every American the chance to get the same affordable health insurance that I have as a member of Congress. They need middle-class tax cuts targeted at working families and seniors and struggling homeowners. And they deserve a government that helps people caught in this housing crisis to refinance their mortgages so they can stay in their homes. In 4 days, you get the chance to help bring about the change that we need right now, Philadelphia. Here in the city and the state that gave birth to our democracy, we can declare our independence from the politics that has shut us out and let us down and told us to settle. We can declare our independence from the politics that puts the oil companies and the drug companies and the insurance companies in charge of the decisions that impact our lives and our children's lives. We can declare independence from the say anything, do anything politics that's all about how to win and not why we should. That politics that exploits our differences instead of speaking to our common concerns and our common destinies as Americans. We can do all of these things, but only if we declare our independence from the cynicism and the doubt that tells us that change can't happen, that tells us we've got to settle for something less than what we know is possible in America. I understand this cynicism. I know you've been disappointed by politics and politicians so many times before. I know how hard change is. We began this race as an underdog, and we're still an underdog here in Pennsylvania. But as hard as change is, as easy as it is to just get up and walk away, I also know that generations of patriots have faced down greater challenges and emerged stronger and more prosperous and more united than before. We can do that right now. But it will take all of us, Democrat and Republican, young and old, rich and poor, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, gay, straight. It will take a movement like we've built in this campaign, a movement of millions of Americans going door to door, neighborhood to neighborhood, block by block, county by county, state by state, contributing whatever they can to change this country. In 4 days' time, we can take another step forward right here in Pennsylvania. In 4 days, if we are willing to shed our cynicism and our doubts and our fears, if we're willing to believe in the possibility of America again, if we're willing to follow in the footsteps of our founders and declare our independence from the politics that stands in our way, then I believe that we won't just win this primary election. We won't just win in Pennsylvania. We will win all across this country. We will win the general election in November. We will change this country. We will perfect this union. We will keep this country's promise alive for the 21st century. You and I together will change this country and change the world. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you, Philadelphia.